If you're currently receiving food stamps or SNAP benefits, there's breaking news that could bring some relief in the middle of all the uncertainty. And for once, it's actually good news. After weeks of back and forth, the Trump administration appeared before a federal judge today and confirmed that it will be issuing 50% of November's SNAP benefits despite the ongoing government shutdown. For millions of Americans who depend on this assistance to put food on the table, this decision marks a step forward in what has been an incredibly stressful few weeks. But of course, this development raises a big question. What about the remaining 50% of your benefits? Well, stay with me because I'm going to break down exactly what this decision means, how we got here, and why this partial payment could open the door to a full restoration of SNAP benefits in the coming days. Welcome to Truth Lens, the channel that breaks down what's really happening behind the headlines that affect seniors, families, and low-income Americans. Here we look at government policies, benefit updates, and financial changes through a lens of truth, cutting through the noise so you can understand how these decisions directly affect your daily life. If you're one of the millions of seniors living on a fixed income or someone relying on Social Security, SSI, or SNAP just to get by each month, you're not alone. Every story we share here on Truth Lens is meant to keep you informed, empowered, and aware of the programs that matter most to you and your loved ones. Now, let's get into the heart of today's update. The administration's decision to pay half of SNAP benefits came after a federal judge issued an ultimatum: either pay 100% of benefits by Monday, November 3rd, or at least 50% by Wednesday. Faced with those two options, the administration chose the latter. While it's not the full payment everyone was hoping for, this move signals progress, and perhaps more importantly, it means millions of families and seniors will at least see part of their November benefit soon. Considering that, just a few days ago, the administration had refused to issue any payments at all. This partial payout represents a hard-won victory for those depending on food assistance to survive. To give you some context, the situation escalated when the government shutdown halted the normal funding flow for essential programs like SNAP. The administration initially declined to use the Emergency Contingency Fund, a pool of money specifically set aside for times just like this. That's what pushed several state attorneys general to take the issue to court, demanding that the federal government release the funds immediately. Judges in both Rhode Island and Boston ruled in favor of the states, ordering the administration to take action. What followed was a weekend of legal wrangling, confusion, and mixed messages until the administration finally confirmed in court that it would release funds to cover half of November's SNAP benefits. Now, many of you are wondering, why only half? Is it because there's no money left? Not exactly. In fact, there's evidence that the funds exist. For example, while the administration hesitated to pay the full SNAP amount, it managed to allocate $450 million to the WUIC program, which provides aid to low-income women, infants, and children. That's certainly a worthy program, but it also proves something important. The money is there. The problem isn't necessarily a lack of funding. It's how and where leaders choose to direct it. This selective prioritization leaves many SNAP recipients, especially seniors, feeling overlooked and devalued. And that's a painful reality for millions of older Americans who've spent decades contributing to the system only to find themselves in retirement struggling to afford the basics. Right now, more than 8 million seniors depend on food stamps. Many of them are also receiving Social Security, but with inflation eroding their purchasing power, even that monthly check no longer stretches as far as it used to. For those living on fixed incomes, every dollar counts. Whether it's the cost of groceries, rent, or medication, the financial squeeze is real, and the government's hesitation to fully fund SNAP only deepens that anxiety. Let's take a closer look at who's affected by these funding delays. Our nationwide SNAP supports around 42 million people, including 16 million children, 1.2 million veterans, and tens of thousands of active duty military families. That means every decision about SNAP funding has far-reaching consequences. For seniors who often live alone and rely on Social Security as their main source of income, the loss of even half their benefits can mean skipping meals or choosing between food and medicine. And let's not forget that the average SNAP benefit amounts to just $6 a day, hardly enough for anyone to live large. These benefits aren't luxuries, they're lifelines. In recent weeks, as pressure mounted, states across the country have begun stepping up to fill the gap where they can. Governors in states like Virginia, Louisiana, California, and New York have declared emergencies or redirected funds to make sure their residents don't go hungry. California, for example, allocated $80 million to food banks and even called in the National Guard to help with food distribution. In New York, the state pledged $30 million to ensure more than 60 million meals would still reach those in need. These state-level actions show that when federal leadership falters, local leaders often step in to protect the people who depend on these programs most. At the federal level, however, the debate has continued. President Trump, in a Truth Social post, claimed his legal team was unsure if they had the authority to use certain funds to pay SNAP benefits, even though during previous shutdowns, the same contingency funds were used for the very same purpose. In response, one of the federal judges overseeing the case reminded the administration that the law was clear. The funds were meant to be used in emergencies, and with 42 million Americans at risk of losing food assistance, this clearly qualifies as one. According to the Treasury Secretary, the half payment could begin reaching recipients as soon as Wednesday, which aligns with the court's order. That's the timeline everyone is watching closely now, while it's still uncertain when the remaining half will be paid. This Wednesday payout would at least bring some relief to households waiting anxiously for their EBT cards to reload. Beyond this immediate crisis, there's a bigger story here, one that speaks to the growing economic divide in America. Every day, more seniors are finding themselves in situations they never imagined. People who worked hard all their lives, paid into Social Security, and contributed to their communities are now skipping meals or relying on food banks to survive. When 1 in 8 Americans, including millions of retirees, rely on food stamps, it's a sign that the safety nets meant to protect them are fraying. And when a government hesitates to release emergency funds during a shutdown, it exposes how fragile that support really is. Here at Truth Lens, we've heard from countless seniors who say their monthly Social Security check barely covers rent and utilities, leaving almost nothing for groceries. Many tell us they feel forgotten and caught between rising costs and political gridlock. This latest SNAP battle is just another reminder of how vulnerable these programs are to political maneuvering. For those living paycheck to paycheck, every delay, every hearing, every legal challenge can mean the difference between a stocked pantry and an empty one. While the court fight continues, there's still some hope. States are mobilizing resources, community food banks are ramping up efforts, and advocacy groups are pushing for a full restoration of SNAP benefits as quickly as possible. But the reality remains, yet this partial payment is a temporary fix until Congress and the administration reach a lasting resolution. Millions of low-income Americans, including seniors, veterans, and families with children,